Hi, Odyssey Camper here. Today I want to talk about my new Nissan NV200 cargo van and why it might be the perfect minivan for a camper build out. The first thing I should say is that the Odyssey isn't going anywhere. I'll continue to do reports from odysseycamper.com as well as reports from the NV200. I should also say that this isn't my vehicle. This vehicle was provided by a company I work for, and they gave it to me to be able to move machinery around and things like that. So any camper build I do on it has to be completely reversible. That might be important to you if you lease a vehicle and you have to return it at the end of the lease without any alterations. So when I put insulation in where I'll be using things like 3M industrial tape, you might be using a spray-on adhesive. So just keep that in mind as the build goes forward. First thing I'll do is a quick walk around of the vehicle. It's not the most handsome vehicle out there for sure. In fact, it's kind of ugly in my opinion. But what it does do really well is it's a box, and as such it makes a pretty good platform to build on. So let's take a look inside. The first thing you'll notice when you look in the back of an NV200 is that it's a big box, and that's what I think will make it perfect for a build out. There's no trim to get in the way. You can do your own insulation and whatnot, and the floor is almost perfectly flat. That was a big challenge in the Odyssey. The floor drops down the front of the Odyssey, so it's really hard unless you build a floor platform to get everything level. The other thing you may notice is that this NV has the extremely rare reversible front seat option. If you want to learn more about that, look at the link down below. It'll bring you to my website and I'll talk all about that. A nice feature of the NV200 is that it was designed for contractors, and as a result it has a lot of unique cargo van features. One of them is these tie-down points in the floor. These, I believe, are held in with M8 bolts, fairly sturdy loops, so you can put tie-down straps, and there are 6 of them. There are 2 at the back, 2 in the middle, 2 near the front. There are also inserts welded in at various points. So right behind the door, there are a couple of inserts. Those look to be M8s, maybe M10s. I'll measure them in a later video. And then there are some in the back, corners, up above, in the ceiling, and so all these can be used to attach shelving, a bed, other things without really damaging the vehicle at all. In addition to the threaded inserts that are welded in place, there are also bolt holes used for access panels. So to get to the taillight, I believe you remove this, and these bolts can be used for something as well. So there are a lot of attachment points that can be used without having to drill any holes in this body. If you're doing a permanent build out on your own van, then by all means drill holes where you want, put attachment screws where you want, but again, I'm trying to keep this so that it can be reversed. In the next video I'm going to do measurements on the inside, so I'll give you the measurements of the door, side to side, floor and whatnot, so look for that in an upcoming video. For the rest of this video I want to talk a little bit about the vehicle itself. I already spoke about the stunning good looks of the NV200, so I'm going to leave that out. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, or lack thereof. Under the hood of the NV is a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. Makes about 140 horsepower. I'd describe it as industrial. It's loud, it's thrashy, gets the job done, but it's not a performance engine. And that's linked to a continuously variable transmission, which essentially means it uses a couple of belts on a pulley arrangement to make it simple, and it has a continuously variable gear range. That actually helps quite a bit in this vehicle, and it's not like earlier CVTs that I've driven. It's smooth driving. You don't feel any shifts. It always seems to be in the right gear, so it makes the best out of the engine that's in there. I mentioned this is the SV model, so this Nissan NV comes in an S and an SV, and the SV gives you a couple of things like the floor tie downs, and it gives you a body colored bumper on there, a couple of minor changes in trim level, but essentially the vehicle remains the same in the base and the top of the line trim level. It also comes with these tiny little wheels. Now these look like they're like 12-inch wheels, but they're actually 15s. They're 185 width, and they're designed for the load capacity of this van, which is 1,500 pounds. So one complaint a lot of owners have is it's difficult to find tires. I found a solution that doesn't use these tires. It does cut about 500 pounds of weight carrying capacity out of it, but I don't anticipate needing 1,500 pounds. 1,000 will do, and that's quite a bit of weight for a little van like this. This van has the optional windows, so there's a window in the passenger side and then rear windows with a defroster on one side. I probably, if I ordered this myself, wouldn't have chose the windows, but they're there, so I'll work around them, make do with it. On the roof, I forgot to mention these tie downs. There are also plugs in place already that you can pop out, and you have bolt down areas. There are 6 of these designed for a roof rack. So the holes are already there. You don't have to peel off any trim, cut anything like in the Odyssey, build standoffs or anything. You can attach just about anybody's cargo rack to the top of that. Nissan does their options a little bit differently on this van than you might expect. Rather than order everything from the factory, a lot of it comes from the dealer, their dealer installed options. One of the options that this one has is the grates on the windows. So if someone smashes the window, it makes it difficult for them to do a smash and grab if you have tools inside or whatnot. These I'll probably take out in store, but there are convenient bolts in place to attach a different kind of panel. So that'll be one of my projects. And those are on every window in the back. One other option this van has is backup sonar. So it beeps as you get closer to something, and if you're making deliveries where you're backing up to a building, that'd be pretty handy. It does have a backup camera, so in the navigation system you also get a backup camera, and this has nav. So strictly speaking, I don't need the sonar, but it might come in handy, and who knows, might keep me from backing into a tree someplace. The more I look at this vehicle, the more I think that they ordered every possible option on it, including the dealer installed options. They've even got the NV200 floor mats. It's a good quality mat. I wouldn't necessarily buy floor mats. I'd go to the aftermarket. I wouldn't buy them from the dealer, but they're there. And I have navigation. So far, the navigation system has been really useful. I like it better than using Google Maps. First of all, it's not tracking where I'm going all the time, but it also interfaces with Sirius XM radio and gets traffic updates. So I've had it actually reroute me around traffic jams and whatnot, so that's kind of nice. And I imagine it uses the signal from everyone that has Sirius, so it's probably a better system, at least more data input than Waze or something like that. And then I installed this $12 holder for my phone that bolts to the floor behind the seat. And another little neat feature, this thing's full of little neat features, is this hanging file holder. It's designed, to hold brochures or whatnot for someone that's traveling around. So there are all kinds of little features like that that make this van good for a contractor, but I also think, like I said, it's going to be good as a camper. So whether you choose the aforementioned dealer installed reverse seat option or the standard seat, the seat has a neat feature, which if I reach over and I grab the recline lever, pull it, and then reach this lever, the seat folds down, and there's a nice place to set your laptop or your McDonald's bag or whatnot. So there's a nice little storage area there, something to keep your pens from rolling around or cylindrical objects. So that's a nice feature, and that's probably the way the seat will be most of the time while I'm camping in the vehicle. I still have access here to the front and aft setting for the seat, so I can move it back or bring it forward. One other feature I forgot to mention, the 60-40 rear split door, or maybe it's a 70-30. Basically it's designed to open wider on one side. This will be your curb side in the US, and so the wide door opens toward the curb, and then the narrow door opens up toward the traffic side. And if you should choose to pull these levers, you can open the door all the way out to load cargo, and it doesn't hang out in traffic too much. I probably wouldn't chance it, but hey, if you're making large deliveries in New York City and traffic's crawling, that'd be kind of useful. What I see it as is a great way to get ventilation into the van. With a full-size screen or one of the tents attached to the back of this, you'd have pretty good flow through the vehicle. So that's really important when you're trying to stay cool in the summertime. The question I know I'm going to get is whether or not I'm going to put a roof fan in this. And with the doors open in the back, I don't think you really need one. It would be nice to leave the doors closed and have some ventilation. The problem is that I see between these cross pieces is about 10 inches, and most fans are 14. So either I have to find smaller fans, or I have to cut one of these cross braces, which I'm not crazy about doing because, as I mentioned, it's a leased vehicle. And really I should check to make sure there wouldn't be a problem putting a fan in the roof. So for now, I'm going to leave that out. But if you're doing your own install, consider that. Climb up on the roof here. Now, right now I'm standing in the back of the vehicle. I have pretty good access to the roof. And you can see the roof rack holes up there. So other than cutting the cross brace, putting a fan in here wouldn't be that big of a deal. I'm going to hold off on that, and there are enough videos online showing how to install fans in cargo vans that I don't need to do one. Just thought you should know that info. So a friend asked me how the NV200 was to drive, and I said, well, it corners like a UPS truck, it accelerates like it has a sail attached to it, and it brakes sometime this afternoon. So as far as a performance vehicle, I wouldn't recommend it, but what it does well is it's a big box. So if that's important to you, that's what you buy it for. That, and it gets pretty good mileage. I'd say it gets better mileage than any minivan I've ever driven. So it has that going for it. Looks, as I mentioned, are subjective. So you make a determination whether or not you can live with the looks. I think it's going to make a fun vehicle for a build out. The first thing I'm going to do though is get rid of these tires. I'll let you know what I found and show you how to swap those out and improve the handling and stopping characteristics of the vehicle. So that concludes my introduction to the Nissan NV200 cargo van in the SV trim level. I think it's going to make a pretty interesting project. If you're looking for a small minivan, a really small minivan with nothing inside it, no trim to work around, you just want a big box, I think it's a pretty good blank canvas. In the next video, as I mentioned, I'll be doing interior dimensions, and I'll probably handle the wheel alteration at the same time. But for this weekend, I'm going to take it out on a quick trip. I've got some customers to visit. I'm going to throw a cot in the back like I did in the Odyssey, head out on the road, learn a little about the vehicle, and then decide exactly what I want to do with it. Hope you'll follow along. Thanks for watching.